Let's examine the C major chord. Like the other chords we'll explore, the C major chord has at least two root notes, one on the nut side and one on the bridge side. The positions of these root notes determine the shape's name. In this case, we have a C-shaped C major chord. We can make this chord movable by barring across the top three strings from G to E. This means that other chords can also utilize the C shape, as we'll discover later on. Let's look at the A major chord in the open position. Its root notes are the open 5th string, and the 2nd fret of the G string. To make this chord movable, we make two bars. One from the root note A with our index finger, and the other bar across the E, A, and C sharp notes, with our middle finger. The top E string is often muted. This forms the standard bar chord with its root on the A string that you might already be familiar with. The G major chord features its nut side root note on the open G string, with two bridge side root notes located on the low E string and the high E string. As a whole, this chord is difficult to move and is usually split into a high string version and a low string version. The E major chord boasts two nut side root notes, found on both E strings, and its bridge side root note is located on the 2nd fret of the D string. If we bar from the low E string to the high E string, we form the standard bar chord that can be moved to any position, with its root note on the two E strings, or the bridge side D string. The final chord, D major, features its nut side root note on the open D string and its bridge side root note on the 3rd fret of the B string. Let's explore the C major notes across the fretboard. The notes from the C major chord, C, E, and G, are highlighted in blue. Starting with the C major chord in the open position, remember its bridge side root note is on the 3rd fret of the A string. Moving to the next shape in CAGED, we encounter the A shape. Now, we have an A-shaped C major chord. This is usually played with a bar across the strings on the 3rd fret and a bar on the 5th fret. The bridge side root note is on the G string. Continuing, we move to the G shape, which can be split into two variations, one with a bar across the 5th fret on the higher strings, and one on the lower strings. Both variations constitute C major chords using the G shape, with bridge side root notes on both E strings. Next in the CAGED sequence is the E shape, forming the standard bar chord with its root on the E strings and the bridge side root note on the D string. Progressing further, we utilize the D shape to construct another C major chord. This chord may require a stretch to incorporate the root note on the D string. Alternatively, you can use the shape on the top three strings, which still forms a complete C major triad. However, it's important to keep in mind the omitted root note for navigation purposes. The D shape's bridge side root note is on the B string. This note connects us to the next shape where we return to the original C shape. But this time, we need to bar the top three strings. If reaching the bridge side root note on the A string is challenging, it can be omitted, but awareness of its position aids in effective navigation. The C minor chord shape is not commonly used, but it's important to learn for navigation purposes. Like its major counterpart, the root note on the nut side is on the 1st fret of the B string, and the root note on the bridge side is on the 3rd fret of the A string. If reaching this note is difficult, it can be omitted, but its location should be noted to facilitate connecting to the next shape. You should already be familiar with the A minor shape as a chord. Similar to its major counterpart, the A minor nut side root note is on the 5th string, and the bridge side root note is on the 2nd fret of the G string. Barring from the A to E note enables us to move this shape to any position. Similar to its major counterpart, the G minor shape can be split into two separate configurations. One configuration utilizes the top three strings, while the other utilizes the bottom three strings. The bridge side root notes that connect us to the next shape are found on both of the E strings. The E minor shape should also be familiar. It has its nut side root notes on both of the E strings. Its bridge side root note is on the D string. You are probably familiar with the D minor chord shape. It has its nut side root note on the D string and its bridge side root note on the B string. Please remember that in all shapes, the root notes remain the same whether the chord is minor or major. Let's examine the C minor scale across the fretboard, this time using the minor pentatonic shapes to visualize the context. The notes of the C minor chord, C, D sharp, and G, are highlighted in blue. Our lowest C minor shape utilizes one of the open strings, with its bridge side root note on the A string. This leads us to the A-shaped C minor chord, which has its bridge side root note on the G string. From there, we transition to the next C minor chord using the G shape on the highest 3 strings. Although the root note can't be played, it's used for navigation. This represents the G-shaped C minor chord on the bottom 3 strings. Both these shapes have their bridge side root notes on the E strings, connecting to the E-shaped C minor chord. We bar across all strings on the 8th fret, with the bridge side root note on the D string. This leads to the next C minor chord utilizing the D minor shape, with its bridge side root note on the B string, ultimately connecting us back to the original C minor chord in the C minor shape. Not only does the CAGED system allow us to play chords up and down the neck, but it also enables us to play any chord within one scale position, as long as we know where the root note is. Let's examine the lowest fully major pentatonic scale on the fretboard that doesn't use open strings, in the key of C major. This is the A-form major pentatonic. Its root notes are in the same position as an A major shape. Now, let's quickly recap the chords diatonic to the key of C major. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished. If you are unsure how these chords were derived, please check out the linked video at the top of the screen. Our 1 chord, C major, is in the nut side position on the 5th string. The shape that has this root configuration is the A shape. So, to play our 1 chord, C major, we use the A shape. The next note is D, located on the bridge side position. This configuration is held by the C shape. Since the diatonic 2nd chord is minor, we will play D minor using the C minor shape. The 3rd chord is E minor. Because its root note is nut side on the 4th string, we will use the D minor shape. The next note, F, is not in the pentatonic, but we know it is always 1 fret above the 3rd note. It is still on the nut side, so playing a D major shape will give us our F major chord. The 5th note, G, is on the bridge side of the 4th string. This is consistent with the E shape. Playing that shape gives us our G major chord. The 6th note, A, is on the nut side of the G string, matching the G shape. Playing the minor G shape here will give us our minor 6th chord. The 7th chord, B diminished, is always located 2 frets above the 6th, or 1 fret below the root. B diminished can be played using this shape. We will explore diminished chords in a future video. Let's examine the diatonic chord shapes in the next position, the G form. Notice that the root notes align with the G chord. Therefore, the 1st chord, C major, utilizes the G shape. We'll use the version on the higher strings. Moving on, the next note, D, falls on the nut side of the A string, prompting the use of an A minor shape. Subsequently, we encounter an E note on the bridge side of the A string, leading us to employ a C minor shape, resulting in an E minor chord. Proceeding, we encounter an F note. While it's not part of the pentatonic scale, we know it will be 1 fret up from the major 3rd, E, establishing our root on the bridge side of the A string. As the 4th chord is always major, we employ a C major shape, yielding an F major chord. Moving to the 5th note, G, situated on the nut side of the D string, we utilize our D major shape to produce a G major chord. Next, the 6th note, A, appears on the bridge side of the D string. Consequently, employing the E minor shape generates an A minor chord. Finally, the 7th note, B, can be found 2 frets up from the 6th note or 1 fret down from the root. As the 7th diatonic chord is diminished, we can play it using this shape. CAGED empowers you to play chords across various positions on the neck, adding versatility to your rhythm playing. When soloing, the ability to visualize chord shapes in any position allows you to target chord tones, enhancing your improvisation. This connection with the underlying harmony creates a more profound musical expression and contributes to a professional sound.